What's up, cats? Today I'll be talking about how to write for drum set.
No, that's wrong!
Sort of. While this is bad because it gives the drummer no information at all about the entire chart, this approach also isn't a great idea, as it removes one of the most important elements of jazz, this being the communication between the drums and other instruments. You could just take the Jim Mcneely approach and notate every single bar and every single interaction, but are you Jim Mcneely? I'm certainly not. Most written out parts are probably just going to be a loop of the same 2 to 4 bars, no matter what's going on in the band. It's like being messaged by a bot. Also, if you do write a super specific drum part, the drummer is probably going to have problems reading it, as a lot of the time they're used to just seeing this. So if you don't write this, and you don't write this, what do you write? Your goal for writing drum parts is to be somewhere in the middle, and the further you can go in this direction without fully writing out parts, the better. Maria Schneider, while not notating out everything the drummer should play, will still give the drummer very detailed instructions about what to play, and descriptions about what is going on in the band. This approach is the most ideal, as the more informed the drummer is about what is going on, the better they'll be able to support it. Along with giving them written instructions, you can also give them certain phrases of the chart that you want them to accent. Again, you want to find a good middle ground between this and this. Giving them this is a lot better, as then they at least have something to go off of, but this amount of information is even more ideal, as it tells the drummer exactly what to do, instead of just giving them the general idea. While the drummer will probably be able to figure out what they want to do after a couple rehearsals, what if you don't have the time for that? A lot of concerts in the professional world only get 1 rehearsal, or none at all even. The more you can cut down on the information the drummer has to process, the more ideal. This also allows them to focus more on doing any style or time changes you might have written, but if you do these, it's important to have a reason. Including a random section where it goes to Latin for 8 bars of a swing chart doesn't really add anything. Oh, it's for contrast. Try contrasting with more of the chart. You can think of it like Chekhov's gun. If you go to a different style randomly, and then never go there again, you're setting up a reveal that never happens. If you write a style or a time change, it should serve a clear purpose in the chart, either coming back to this style later, or using it as a build-up for another section. These changes can add or remove a lot of momentum from the chart, but a bad change can completely take the listener out of the moment. Some composers and artists who do use these changes effectively are Jim Mcneely, Maria Schneider, Miho Hazama, and Hoshimachi Suisei, with each taking very different approaches. These 3 are actually very closely intertwined, as both Jim Mcneely and Maria Schneider studied with Bob Brookmeyer, and Miho Hazama studied with Jim Mcneely, and has worked with Maria Schneider as well. Jim Mcneely took the most influence from Bob Brookmeyer's swing charts, which took extremely long amounts of time building to a single moment, while Maria Schneider drew from his more experimental music that he wrote at a later time, writing a lot of charts featuring instruments not really heard in a big band setting, with a lot of changing time signatures. And I mean a lot of changing time signatures. Miho Hazama combines both of these approaches, using non-standard instruments, using the entire chart to build to a singular moment, and using constantly shifting time signatures. While maybe not having as many time signature changes, a lot of Hoshimachi Suisei's music follows this principle of using style and feel changes to build to the big moment as well. Justifying time signature changes is significantly harder than field changes or style changes. Having this many time changes works for Maria Schneider, as she writes all of her charts by hand, and will spend months writing a single chart, trying every single idea in every single way possible, stretching them as far as they can possibly go. This is how her music sounds so natural, despite going through all these different time signatures. But for us mere mortals who aren't gifted the boon of multiple months to write one chart, or the mind of Maria Schneider, these charts will generally just sound like a measure of 5, a measure of 4, a measure of 3, a measure of 5, another measure of 4, another measure of 3, and so on. So I think it's best to focus on the concepts that are more easily applicable, mainly Jim Mcneely and Hoshimachi Suisei's delaying of the main groove, and variations on the main groove as the song continues. From Jim Mcneely's chart Mel, we can learn how to use this in the context of swing, and while Hoshimachi Suisei's song Stella Stella definitely isn't a big band chart, it still has a lot of concepts of big band drumming. Following the ideas heard in these charts is how you'll be able to orchestrate for drum set the most effectively. Jim Mcneely's chart Mel is dedicated to one of the most influential big band drummers, Mel Lewis, co-creator of the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra, which would later turn into the Village Vanguard Jazz Orchestra, which performs weekly at the Village Vanguard. Really knocking it out of the park creatively with these names. Never mind. The beginning of this chart is a quote of the last song Mel Lewis ever played, Thad Jones's To You, with drums being on brushes, very standard for a ballad. After playing the last minute of this song, the song then transitions to a much more up-tempo feel, and drums are still on brushes. In this section, the melody was written to sound like a drum solo, so the horn parts are very rhythmic, focusing on stabs, call and response, and polyrhythms, with brushes setting up these hits and playing around them. This continues until 208, where drums switch from brushes to sticks. This is also the first time in this section that we hear anything in the bass register. The switch from brushes to sticks, in combination with the occupation of the bass register, help push the momentum of the chart forward significantly. Drums keep swinging as the band continues the orchestrated drum solo, still hitting the various kicks that come from the bass trombone until the 3-minute mark, where the drums stop playing the ride pattern to respond to the band playing a send-off for the tenor soloist. The tenor then gets 7 bars of regular swing to introduce himself to the audience, before the drums switch to a more Latin-inspired groove using the bell of the ride, driving the chart forward by developing on the previously heard swing groove, and hopefully forcing the tenor player to play something else than the same 5 licks he plays every solo. After this section, it goes back to a regular swing feel, all the way until the open bass solo. After the open bass solo, the band builds back up to a section where the band trades with the drummer playing a phrase, then the band improvising phrases with the same rhythm, but all different notes. Later in this solo, the band is given written rhythms to play, but told to choose notes at random. After this extremely dissonant passage, there's a 16-bar walking bass solo, which acts as a palate cleanser before getting into the end of the chart. The up-tempo swing then continues uninterrupted for a while, up until the end of the chart where the feel changes to a halftime. Despite being the only part of the chart to feature this style change, it works here as the goal is a stunning comedic shift, which is then continued for the rest of the chart. Now let's go 27 years into the future. After starting with the rubato section at the beginning, time is mainly implied using the other instruments, with drums just doing fills around everything else that's going on. At 26 seconds, they play time for the first time in the song, simply keeping time on hi-hat, which is only heard super far in the background. At 0:34, the drummer starts doing fills around the time again, building intensity for when they come in with a busier groove at 0:47. Once again, this groove features almost no snare or kick, instead being almost entirely on cymbals, and what sounds like a clap stack. It also sounds very similar to the groove that comes in at the chorus, except on cymbals and without all the ghost notes. Moving the main element of a groove to another part of the kit is a very common move in big band charts, such as a lot of bassy charts starting with a piano solo where the ride pattern is played on closed hi-hat. For the pre-chorus, the drums then go back to playing around the melody as opposed to playing time, accenting figures and building up momentum for the chorus. After nearly a minute and a half of building to the chorus, we finally hear the main groove of the chart, for 8 bars, after which it goes to a halftime feel, which brings the intensity back down in preparation for the next section, and then further reduces the intensity by going back to filling around the rest of what's going on. The drummer dropping out at the end of the phrase and filling around what is going on is the technique I use all the time, as it provides a lot of contrast to what came before it. After this, the song goes back to the verse, but now with a halftime feel. This actually follows another principle of big band writing, which is nothing should ever be played the same way twice. Even if there's just a minor change, there should be some sort of variation between the first verse and the second, which the halftime feel definitely accomplishes. The drummer then drops out again before the pre-chorus, where they once again go back to playing around the time rather than playing time directly. The drummer drops out again right before the chorus. Then the biggest surprise of the song occurs, as the entire chorus is played with a halftime feel, which is then followed by a synth solo. This entire chorus is treated as a build-up to the next chorus, which then employs the classic technique of having the vocalist sing the first part of the chorus with a much more sparse instrumentation, before going into the chorus for a final time. It once again goes into the halftime feel, before going back to playing around the time like in the intro. Both of these charts use feel and style changes to shift the momentum of the chart, whether it's driving it forward by switching to a bell pattern on the ride, or winding down by going to a halftime feel, or by dropping out to only feature the melody. You can think of the chart as a narrative, with the drum part being one of the main ways to accelerate or de-accelerate the narrative. For better or worse, the drummer will always be the main controlling factor, so the more instruction you can give them to better carry this out, the more interesting your chart will be. The drummer is one of the 2 musicians most responsible for the quality of the band, If the band is great, but the drummer isn't, the band will not sound good. If the band doesn't sound great, but they have a really good drummer, they can make it work. This isn't really something to account for when orchestrating, but for putting a band together, the drummer is probably one of the people you'll want to ask first. As long as you give them good instructions, really the only issue you'll have to watch out for are bad changes from brushes to sticks. The best time to write these are when the band is playing a long note. Drummers are used to making very quick changes from brushes to sticks, but you should still make it easier on them if you can. Also, once the drummer is on sticks, they should stay on sticks for the rest of the chart. You can think of switching to sticks as the point of no return. If you enter the final confrontation of the game against your fated rival, of which only one of you will leave alive, he isn't just going to let you come back and try again later. While you can't really pair drums with another instrument harmonically, one really cool sound I like to use is having a section just be drums and the soloist. This allows for more interaction between the two, and will give a huge amount of contrast with the rest of the chart. This is most commonly heard with saxophonists, but really it'll work with any instrument. Overall, as long as you give them actual instructions, but not too many instructions, you'll enable drums to most effectively support the band. The more you can play with the style and feel of the chart in ways that support the narrative, the better. Give them lots of guidance, but don't tell them exactly what to do. If you're ever lost on how to write good drum parts, you can also listen to Hoshimachi Suisei's song Ghost, which is another really good example of delaying the groove and shifting time signatures, especially the 3/4 pattern that appears every time in the chorus. That part is so cool, and the sounds in the middle of the song